The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean. Emerald Tablet 1, The History of Thoth, the Atlantean. I, Thoth, the Atlantean, master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty keen magician, living from generation to generation, being about to pass into the halls of Amenti, set down for the guidance of those that are to come after. These records of the mighty wisdom of great Atlantis, in the great city of Kior, on the island of Undao, in a time far past, I began this incarnation, not as the little men of the present age did the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Kim shall know me no more, but in a time yet unborn will I rise again, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Then beware, O men of Kim, if ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into the darkness of the caves from whence ye came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north, or the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon ye. Remember and heed my words, for surely will I return again, and require of thee that which ye guard. Yea, even from beyond time, and from beyond death will I return, rewarding or punishing, as ye have required your trust. Great were my people in the ancient days, great beyond the conception of the little people now and then. Knowing the wisdom of old, seeking far within the heart of infinity, knowledge that belonged to earth's youth, wise were we with the wisdom of the children of light who dwelt among us. Strong were we with the power drawn from the eternal fire. And of all these, greatest among the children of men was my father, Thoth, keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light who dwelt within the temple and the races of men who inhabited the 10 islands, mouthpiece after the 3 of the dweller of Unao, speaking to the kings with the voice that must be obeyed. Grew I there from a child into manhood, being taught by my father the elder mysteries, until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, until it burst into a consuming flame. Naught desired I but the attainment of wisdom, until on a great day the command came from the dweller of the temple that I be brought before him. Few there were among the children of men who had looked upon that mighty face and lived. For not as the sons of men are the children of light, when they are not incarnate in a physical body. Chosen was I from the sons of men, taught by the dweller, so that his purpose might be fulfilled, purposes yet unborn in the womb of time. Long ages I dwelt in the temple, learning ever and yet ever more wisdom, until I too approached the light, emitted from the great fire. Taught me he the path to Amenti, the underworld, where the great king sits upon his throne of might. Deep I bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving as my gift the key of life. Free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circles of life. Far to the stars I journeyed, until space and time became as naught. Then, having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men, and there found I greater mysteries, and was glad. For only in the search for truth could my soul be stilled and the flame within be quenched. Down through the ages I lived, seeing those around me taste of the cup of death and return again in the light of life. Gradually from the kingdoms of Atlantis past waves of consciousness that had been once with me, only to be replaced by a spawn of a lower star. In obedience to the law, the word of the messenger grew into flower. Downward into darkness turned the thoughts of the Atlanteans, until at the last, in his wrath, arose from his aguante the dweller, speaking the word, calling the power. Deep in earth's heart, the sons of Amente heard, and hearing directed the changing of the flower of fire that burns eternally, changing and shifting, using the logos, until that great fire changed its direction. Over the world then broke the great waters, drowning and sinking, changing earth's balance, until only the temple of light was left standing on the great mountain of Undao. Still rising out of the water, some there were who were living, saved from the rush of the fountains. Called to me then the master, saying, Gather ye together my people, take them by the arts ye have learned of, far across the waters, until ye reach the land of the hairy barbarians, dwelling in caves of the desert. Follow there the plan that ye know of. Gathered I then my people, and entered the great ship of the master. Upward we rose into the morning. Dark beneath us lay the temple. Suddenly over it rose the waters, vanished from earth until the time appointed was the great temple. Fast we fled toward the sun of the morning, until beneath us lay the land of the children of Kim. Raging they came with kudaus and spears, lifted in anger, seeking to slay and utterly destroy the sons of Atlantis. Then raised I my staff and directed a ray of vibration, striking them still in their tracks, as fragments of stone on a mountain. Then spoke I to them in words calm and peaceful, telling them of the might of Atlantis, saying we were children of the sun and its messengers. Cowed I then by my display of magic science, until at my feet they grooved. Then I released them. Long dwelt we in the land of Kim, long and yet long again, until obeying the commands of the master, who will, sleeping yet lives eternally. I sent from me the sons of Atlantis, sent them in many directions, that from the womb of time wisdom might rise again in her children. Long time dwelt I in the land of Kim, doing great works by the wisdom within me. Upward grew into the light of knowledge the children of Kim, watered by the rains of my wisdom. Blasted I then a path to Amente, so that I might retain my powers, living from age to age a son of Atlantis, keeping the wisdom, preserving the records. Great grew the sons of Kim, conquering the people around them, growing slowly upward in soul force. Now for a time I go from among them into the dark halls of Amente, deep in the halls of the earth, before the lords of the powers, face to face once again with the dweller. Raised I high over the entrance a doorway, a gateway leading down to Amente. Few there would be with courage to dare it. Few passed the portal to dark Amente. Raised over the passage, I a mighty pyramid, using the power that overcomes earth force, gravity. Deep and yet deeper placed I a force house or chamber. From it carved I a circular passage, reaching almost to the great summit. There in the apex set I the crystal, sending the ray into the time-space, drawing the force from out of the ether, concentrating upon the gateway to Amente. Other chambers I built and left vacant to all seeing, yet hidden within them are the keys to Amente. He who in courage would dare the dark rams, let him be purified first by long fasting. Lie in the sarcophagus of stone in my chamber. Then revealed I to him the great mysteries. Soon shall he follow to where I shall meet him. Even in the darkness of earth shall I meet him. I, Thoth, Lord of wisdom, meet him and hold him and dwell with him always. Builded I the great pyramid, patterned after the pyramid of earth force, burning eternally so that it too might remain through the ages. In it I builded my knowledge of magic science so that it might be there. When again I return from Amente, yea, while I sleep in the halls of Amente, my soul, roaming free, will incarnate, dwell among men in this form or another. Hermes, thrice-born, emissary on earth am I of the dweller, fulfilling his commands so man might be lifted. Now return I to the halls of Amente, leaving behind me some of my wisdom. Preserve ye and keep ye the command of the dweller. Lift ever upwards your eyes toward the light. Surely in time ye are one with the Master. Surely by right ye are one with the Master. Surely by right ye are one with the All. Now not depart from ye. Know my commandments, keep them and be them, and I will be with you. Helping and guiding you into the light. Now before me opens the portal, go I down in the darkness of night. Translation. The passing of Thoth into the halls of Amente was not the change we call death. He merely placed his physical body beneath the ray of force, later referred to as the cold flower of life, where it would be preserved indefinitely as Thoth. He would not return, but while his body rested in suspended animation, his consciousness entered many bodies and lived many lives. Kior was the city of the priesthood of Atlantis on Undao, the island just opposite Unau. There were two cities, or rather two divisions of one great city that covered the island. The island was entirely surrounded by terraced walls and divided across the center by a high wall. Kior faced Unau and was occupied by the priesthood, while the other side of the island was known as Chien and was occupied by the philosophic and scientific groups. No one was allowed on either part of the island, excepting by a pass signed by the leaders of a group. The mighty ones referred to were the adepts of Atlantis, and these were 13 in number. Thothmes, father of Thoth, was head or chief of the 13. They operated on the principle of what later became the Great White Lodge. They knew the way to the halls of Amente, where for a time they would lie beneath the flower of life and rejuvenate their bodies. Unlike the masters, they did not leave their bodies there while they incarnated in other bodies, but only bathed in the fire of life and renewed their bodies. Thoth himself had descended to Amente 1,000 times to renew his body, and as this was necessary about once every 50 years, Thoth was approximately 50,000 years old at the time of writing. He was 20,000 years old at the time of the sinking of Atlantis. Therefore, the writing of the tablets must have occurred about 20,000 years ago. Thoth lay his original body beneath the flower of light, to be taken up again when he desires, and sends his consciousness into other bodies through birth. He says definitely that he will rise again in the flesh in a time yet to come. This time mentioned is spoken of later in the tablets when the invaders from outer space attacked the earth. The secrets which he left were the great ship of war beneath the Sphinx and the secrets of the pyramids. The men of Kim or Egypt, who were left as gods, have faithfully fulfilled the command and still guard the secrets. The arcane wisdom he gave them has enabled them to protect the secrets from the people who came after. The people of Thoth were not the mass of Atlanteans, but the group which lived on Undao and comprised the scientific, philosophic, and priest classes. They had learned to seek knowledge at its source, the Akashic records. The children of light came among them at times and taught them wisdom, which enabled them to take the next step forward. The power of the eternal fire was the fire of the universal consciousness. Thothmes, father of Thoth, was high priest of Undao, the mouthpiece of the children of light, and the dweller of Unau, to the kings and people of the islands. Thoth was taught the mysteries which had been retained in the secret archives of the temple. He had developed in the past to such a degree that he readily grasped the truth which was taught him. The desire for ultimate knowledge aroused such tremendous force and placed him on such a plane of vibration that the dweller became conscious of him. The dweller did not have the form or shape that man now has, but occupied a body similar to the bodies occupied by consciousness during the earliest part of the first cycle, the globular body. The light and force emanated by such a body was too great for the average human to stand. Only a consciousness on a high plane of vibration could stand it and still remain material. The dweller could see in Thoth one who was ready to have the spark of light fanned into flame. The arousing of the flame brought to Thoth life stronger than the life of ordinary men. For as he grew in knowledge, he was shown the path to the halls of Amente, where the flower of life force of this planet is concentrated. And standing before the lords of life and death, he received the key of life and death, with power to take up life or to lay it down at will. With the attaining of power over life and death, Thoth was able to lay down his body and at will travel to the farthermost extensions of this space-time. After tasting of the wisdom of the cosmos, he found that it was centered in the hearts of minds of men. There he found greater mysteries, for it is through man that the cosmos extends into unexplored territory. Thoth was born about 20,000 years before the sinking of Atlantis, but because he had accepted a particular work, he did not pass on as others did who had gained the first illumination. Those who had been around him in youth passed on to Venus to be replaced by a wave of consciousness from Mars. The later wave of consciousness was such that they could not be trusted with the science and wisdom of the earlier Atlanteans, for they would have misused it. The dweller spoke the word of power, which was heard by the lords of the cycles, dwelling in Amente, and they, hearing, directed the balance of the earth into new channels, causing the land to sink, carrying with it the science and knowledge which the mass of people had. This knowledge, though nothing in comparison to the knowledge of the children of light, was yet too great to remain in the hands of undeveloped ones. The flower of fire is not in the flower or a fire of life, but the pyramid of cold fire, which is the balance of the earth. The temple of light was not the temple of Unau, but the outer temple of the priesthood on Undao. The temple of Unau was never referred to as a temple, but only as the gateway or place of the dweller. Knowing of what it was composed, it was never thought of as being subject to destruction, and was therefore not considered in the sinking. But a few of the wise men of Undao were left living when the rest of the land sank. The land of the hairy barbarians is the land now known as Egypt. Kim was the first of learning established by the Atlanteans. From there, they later sent emissaries to barbarous tribes in different parts of the Earth's surface. This was the plan mentioned to use Kim as the central home of the new race wisdom. The ship of the Master was a ship capable of traveling between planets and was armed with weapons that could destroy every living thing on Earth's surface if used at full power. In the atmosphere, it was driven by atomic motors, but outside the heaviside layer, it could be moved by thought, not only between planets, but into any space the mind of the pilot could visualize. Its structure was such that its materiality raised or lowered in vibration as the will of the operator commanded. As Thoth left the island of Unau, although he does not mention it, Undao had already sank. The great temple or place of the dweller also sank, but was not destroyed. The barbarians, upon meeting Thoth and his followers, the Atlanteans, attempted to kill them, but were struck motionless by a paralyzing ray from Thoth's staff or rod of power. This rod was capable of transmitting or casting forth hundreds of different manifestations of force directed by the will of the holder. The apparent supernatural power of Thoth caused the barbarians to submit to him, and his statement to them that he was a child of the sun and the basis for the worship of the sun among many ancient races. Thoth was, of course, referring to the spiritual sun. It took many years to establish the new seat of the children of the sun, but when this was complete, emissaries were sent to other races to teach and guide them. As time passed, Thoth found it necessary to open a passage to Amente for the renewal of his body, for even though filled with power, after hundreds of years, it began to disintegrate. This was necessary because his work was not yet finished. After a long period of time, the barbarians of Kim developed in consciousness until they could go forward without the aid of Thoth. Thoth plans to enter the halls of Amente and place his body under the flower of life, while his consciousness goes elsewhere. The entrance to Amente is below the great pyramid of Cheops, or Khufu, built by changing the atomic structure of stone until it became very light, and then after it was in place, changing it again. Beneath the pyramid is the force room connected with the apex of the pyramid by a central shaft or well. In the upper portion of the shaft is a lens or crystal through which rays from the force chamber are directed. These are bent into time-space and carving open a dimensional pathway from beneath the pyramid to the halls of Amente, which, though in concurrent movement and space with the earth, exists in its own space. The hidden chambers are the ones spoken of in the book of the Great Pyramid. The sarcophagus connects with the central shaft. When one lies in it a specified length of time, his body is transported down the shaft to the central force chamber. The knowledge of this was preserved in later years, but debased into a ritual of initiation. It was first necessary to coat the body with a certain ointment for the occupant to be transported, and the knowledge of this was not retained by the latter Egyptians. The Great Pyramid is indestructible. If its inner parts were disturbed, forces would be let loose by the guardians, which would destroy any one or thing which came against it. Thoth later incarnated as Hermes and as other great teachers, though not always on earth. Thoth leaves with the statement that those to come after will in time be able to tread the same path. Emerald, Tablet 2, the halls of Amente. Deep in earth's heart lie the halls of Amente. Far beneath the islands of sunken Atlantis, halls of the dead and halls of the living, bathed in the fire of the infinite all. Far in a past time, lost in the space-time, the children of light looked down on the world, seeing the children of men in their bondage, bound by the force that came from beyond. Knew they that only by freedom from bondage could man ever rise from the earth to the sun. Down they descended and created bodies, taking the semblance of men as their own. The masters of everything said, after their forming, we are they who were formed from the space dust, partaking of life from the infinite all, living in the world as children of men, like and yet unlike the children of men. Then, for a dwelling place, far neath the earth's crust, blasted great spaces they by their power, spaces apart from the children of men, surrounded them by forces of power, shielded from harm they the halls of the dead. Side by side then placed they other spaces, filled them with life and with light from above. Builded they then the halls of Amente, that they might dwell eternally there, living with life to eternity's end. 32 were there of the children, sons of light, who had come among men, seeking to free from the bondage of darkness those who were bound by the force from beyond. Deep in the halls of life grew a flower, flaming, expanding, driving backward the night. Placed in the center, a ray of great potence, life-giving, light-giving, filling with power all who came near it. Placed there around its throne 32 places for each of the children of light, placed so that they were bathed in the radiance, filled with the life from the eternal light. There, time after time, placed they their first created bodies, so that they might be filled with the spirit of life. 100 years out of each 1,000 must the life-giving light flame forth on their bodies, quickening, awakening the spirit of life. There, in the circles from eon to eon, sit the great masters, living a life not known among men. There, in the halls of life, they lie sleeping. Free flows their souls through the bodies of men. Time after time, while their bodies lie sleeping, incarnate they in the bodies of men, teaching and guiding onward and upward, out of the darkness into the light. There in the halls of life, filled with their wisdom, known not to the races of man, living forever neath the cold fire of life, sit the children of light. Times there are when they awaken, come from the depths to the light among men. Infinity they among finite man. He who by progress has grown from the darkness lifted himself from the night into light. Free is he made of the halls of Amente, free of the flower of light and of life. Guided he then by wisdom and knowledge, passes from men to the masters of life. There he may dwell as one with the masters, free from the bonds of the darkness of night. Seated within the flower of radiance sit 7 lords from the space-time above us, helping and guiding through infinite wisdom the pathway through time of the children of men. Mighty and strange they veiled with their power, silent, all-knowing, drawing the life force, different yet one with the children of men, yea, different and yet one with the children of light. Custodians and watchers of the force of man's bondage, ready to loose when the light has been reached. First and most mighty sits the veiled presence, Lord of lords, the infinite nine. Over the others from each cosmic cycle, weighing and watching the progress of men. Under he sit the lords of the cycles, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, each with his mission, each with his powers, guiding, directing the destiny of man. There sit they, mighty and potent, free of all time and space, not of this world they, yet akin to it. Elder brothers they of the children of men, judging and weighing they with their wisdom, watching the progress of light among men. There before them was I led by the dweller, watched him blend with one from above. Then from he came forth a voice, saying, Great art thou, Thoth, among children of men, free henceforth of the halls of Amente, master of life among children of men. Taste not of death, except as thou wilt it. Drink thou of life to eternity's end. Henceforth forever is life, thine for the taking. Henceforth is death at the call of thy hand. Dwell here or leave here when thou desireth. Free is Amente to the Son of Man. Take thou up life in what form thou desireth. Child of the light that has grown among men. Choose thou thy work, for all souls must labor. Never be free from the pathway of light. One step thou hast gained on the long pathway upward. Infinite now is the mountain of light. Each step thou taketh but heightens the mountains. All of thy progress but lengthens the gold. Approach ye ever the infinite wisdom. Ever before thee recedes the goal. Free are ye made now of the halls of Amente, to walk hand in hand with the lords of the world. One in one purpose, working together, bringers of light to the children of men. Then from Hidron came one of the masters, taking my hand and leading me onward. Through the halls of the deep hidden land, led he me through the halls of Amente, showing the mysteries that are known not to man. Though the dark passage downward he led me, into the halls where sits the dark death. Vast as space lay the great halls before me, walled by darkness, but yet filled with light. Before me arose a great throne of darkness, veiled in it seated a figure of night. Darker than darkness sat the great figure, dark with a darkness not of the night. Before it then paused the master, speaking the word that brings about life, saying, O masters of darkness, guide of the way from life unto light. Before thee I bring a son of the morning. Touch him not ever with the power of night. Call not his flame to the darkness of night. Know him as and see him one of our brothers, lifted from darkness into the light. Release thou his flame from its bondage. Free let it flame through the darkness of night. Raised then the hand of the figure. Forth came a flame that grew clear and bright. Rolled back swiftly the curtain of darkness. Unveiled the hall from the darkness of night. Then grew in the great space before me a flame after flame from the veil of the night. Uncounted millions leaped they before me, some flaming forth as flowers of fire. Others they were that shed a dim radiance, glowing but faintly but from out of the night. Some there were that faded swiftly, others that grew from a small spark of light, each surrounded by its dim veil of darkness, yet flaming with light that could never be quenched. Coming and going like fireflies in springtime, filled they the space with light and with life. Then spake a voice mighty and solemn, saying, These are lights that are souls among men, growing and fading, existing forever, changing yet living, though death into life. When they have bloomed into flower, reach the zenith of growth in their life. Swiftly then sent I my veil of darkness, shrouding and changing the new form of life. Steadily upward throughout the ages, growing, expanding into yet greater flame, lightening the darkness with yet greater power, quenched yet unquenched by the veil of the night. So grows the souls of man ever upward, quenched yet unquenched by the darkness of night. I, death, come and yet I remain not, for life eternal exists in the all, only an obstacle and a pathway, quick to be conquered by the infinite light. Awaken, O flame that burns ever inward, flame forth and conquer the veil of the night. Then in the midst of the flames and the darkness, grew there one that drove forth the night, flaming, expanding, ever brighter, until at last was nothing but light. Then spoke my guide, the voice of the Master. See your own soul as it grows in the light, free now forever from the Lord of the night. Forever he led me through many great spaces, filled with the mysteries of the children of light, mysteries that man may never yet know of, until he too is the son of the light. Back within he led me into the light of the halls of the light. Knelt I then before the great masters, Lord of all, from the cycles from above. Spoke he then the words of great power, saying, Thou hast been made free of the halls of Amente. Choose thou thy work among the children of men. Then spoke I, O great master, let me be a teacher of men, leading them onward and upward until they too are lights among men, freed from the veil of the night that surrounds them, flaming with light that shall shine among men. Spoke to me then the voice, Go as ye will, so be it decreed. Master are ye of your destiny, free to take or reject at will. Take ye the power, take ye the wisdom, shine as a light among the children of men. Upward then led me the dweller, dwelt I again among the children of men, teaching and showing some of my wisdom, son of the light, a fire among men. Now and again I tread the path downward, seeking the light in the darkness of night. Hold ye and keep ye, preserve my record. Guide shall I be to the children of men. Translation. The halls of Amente are peculiar among hidden spaces of the earth, and that they are not in this octave of material vibration, but are in a fold of space set aside from all other spaces. They have a direct connection with the positive and negative polarities of the Yakima. Their approximate location relationship to the earth is beneath Atlantis, but one has to move out of this space fold to enter. There are various places where this can be accomplished. Sulphur Springs, Oklahoma; Mount Shasta, California; Michoacan, South America; Shambhala, Tibet; Great Pyramid, Egypt; Black Forest, Germany; Benares, India; Atlas Mountains, Africa. The far past time is the first cycle, which is fixed in past space-time, and is that particular period just after the negative descended on the man and bound him in the material plane. The masters of that period, or children of light, formed their own bodies from the primal matter and imbued it with life. Though these bodies had the same outward form as man, their interior structure was different, having sense organs usable only by a double unit of consciousness, male and female. They were not bound in the negative or disorder of man, and were therefore free to accomplish things the rest of mankind could not accomplish. Whereas the physical body of Thoth had to be renewed every 50 years, and the primal body required renewal only once in 1,000 or 100 years. It was in the first cycle that the halls of Amente were built by the children of light who descended to this planet. By the forces they controlled, they warped space and constructed Amente and bound it to earth. The dimensional walls around it protected it from entry by any except the highest consciousness. The great space was subdued into other smaller spaces, and direct concentration of force from the Yakima were centered in them. They were 32 of these children of light on the earth, having charge of the affairs of earth. In the halls was placed a concentration point of vital force of spirit. Into it poured that vital force of life, which supplied the very life of the planet. When an object on earth disintegrates, the spirit which is freed is drawn to the flower of life, and Amente to be called forth at need. It acts for earth in the same capacity as the solar plex acts for the human body. The throne of the children of light were so placed that they were in the full flower of spirit which supplied their bodies, as vast as they lost their own flow. Thus a body placed under it did not have to draw life directly from the source, but bathed in its radiance. The balance was fully maintained when the consciousness was away. Even though it be for centuries, the life force is so strong that the reservoir of the body placed under it for 100 years was so fulfilled that it would last for 1,000 years without renewal. Thus 10 years of each 100 would keep the body young and powerful. In most instances, the body was left for great periods of time, and the children of light entered the bodies of men through birth. But occasionally they came forth in their original bodies, though not often. When one had attained the third illumination, he is made free of a mente and can, if he desires, place his body beneath the fire of life and renew it from age to age. The seven lords are direct emanations of extensions from the seven cosmic consciousness. Beyond this, they work indefinite of and yet in harmony with this cosmic consciousness. They have control of certain forces from beyond, such as negative disorder, and have emanations on all implanetary planets in this cosmos, or inhabited planets in this cosmos. Other functions of the lords are the control of time-space, separating the fourth time, and the holding back of an onrush of disorder from the negative reservoir upon the flame of consciousness which had broken away from it. And in it is their power which draws life force into its concentration point in the flower of life and holds it there. The Lords of Lords is the emanation from the nine cosmic cycle and holds his or its title because it is the most highly developed and farthermost extension of this ayad. It is the power which controls the negative in all cosmic cycles below him, but equal in regard to purpose and control of their own particular powers, are the lords of the other 6 cycles above us. Though not of this cosmic consciousness, they are akin to it, for all ages formed forth from the same basic material, ordered, disordered, and have been born from the same source, the ayad, the primal source of creation. Thoth was brought before the lords up by Harlot, the dweller on Unau, and there watched the dweller blend with one of the lords, in other words, entered into such harmony that they became one. From him came forth a voice. The lords, not being of human form or vibration, could not speak in words. Their power was stepped down so that Thoth could hear. Later, he became able to raise his own vibration so that he could hear the silent voice of the lords. But this did not occur until he had passed certain tests. Thoth was given freedom of a mente, or was given the key whereby that space could be opened by him at will, and having access to the flowers of life need die only when he willed. Thoth learns the laws of certain so that he can take up any form or body he desires. Following the law, he must now choose what particular work he will do, for attainment of illumination brings greater opportunity and power to work. The height to which Thoth had attained is only a foothill of the greater mountain of transcendental light toward which all cosmic consciousness are working. As Thoth had attained one goal, he could henceforth walk with those seeking a greater goal. It was one of the 32 children of light, not one of the lords, who conducted Thoth on his first tour of the halls of Amentet, the places wherein the Antheus of life, which is death, reigned. This force, being somewhat akin to that which is called life, is found in a place of life. It may seem paradoxical to call death akin to life, but if we realize that it is through the action of death on the negative that life becomes freer, we can see its kinship. The Lord of Death is not one of the lords from cycles above, but is of this cosmic cycle. He has charge of the actions of death, force upon the negative, which surrounds each spark of consciousness. That darkness, which is loss of consciousness or death, is called night, for in it the consciousness loses memory of that which has been. He is told not to touch Thoth with laws of consciousness. The Lord of Death is told to see and recognize Thoth as a son of light, not to be held or touched by death. The hand of the Lord of Death is raised, sending forth flame symbolical of light concealed in the darkness of death. Light banishes the darkness. Thoth is shown uncounted millions of flames, each a soul manifesting on this plane. The brightness or dimness of the flames show the degree of negative disorder in which they were bound. The Lord of Death tells Thoth of the mysteries of life and death, explaining how the soul incarnates in a physical body, reaches the zenith of its growth, and then passes through change to leap forth again with greater light. Death comes, but only as a temporary thing. Life itself is immortal, existing from the beginning to the end. Always in the end, life and light must conquer death and darkness. Death desires that light banish his power. From even death came forth from light. Thoth is shown his own soul as it drives out the darkness and flames forth into full light. The guide then leads Thoth into other great spaces in Amente and elsewhere, showing him mysteries revealed only to the adepts. Among others, he was shown the inner spaces of the fourth dimension. Thoth was again brought before the lords, and by the lords who had first spoken to him was commanded to choose his work. Thoth, of his own accord, chooses to become a teacher, bringing souls from darkness into light. He is verified in his choice by the Lord and commanded to go forth and work as he has chosen. Thoth is led upward to earth, there fulfilling the choice he had made. He closes with the statement that now and again he goes to Amente, leaving man for a time. Embryo, Tablet 3, the Key of Wisdom. I, Thoth, the Atlantean, give of my wisdom, give of my knowledge, give of my power. Freely I give to the children of men. Give that they too might have wisdom to shine through the world from the veil of the night. Wisdom is power, and power is wisdom, one with each other, perfecting the whole. Be thou not proud, O man, in thy wisdom. Discourse with the ignorant as well as the wise. If one comes to thee full of knowledge, listen and heed, for wisdom is all. Keep thou not silent when evil is spoken, for truth like the sunlight shines above all. He who oversteppeth the law shall be punished, for only through law comes the freedom of men. Cause thou not fear, for fear is a bondage, a feather that binds the darkness to man. Follow thine heart during thy lifetime. Do thou more than is commanded of thee. When thou hast gained riches, follow thine heart. For all these are of no avail if thine heart is weary. Diminish thou not the time of following thine heart. It is a board of the soul. They that are guided go not astray, but they that are loose cannot find a straight path. If thou go among men, make for thyself love, the beginning and the end of the heart. If one cometh unto thee for counsel, let him speak freely, that the thing for which he hath come to thee may be done. If he hesitates to open his heart to thee, it is because thou, the judge, doeth the wrong. Repeat thou not extravagant speech, neither listen thou to it, for it is the utterance of one not in equilibrium. Speak thou not of it, so that he before thee may know wisdom. Silence is the great prophet, and abundance of speech profiteth nothing. Exalt not thy heart above the children of men, lest it be brought lower than the dust. If thou be great among men, be honored for knowledge and gentleness. If thou seekest to know the nature of a friend, ask not his companion, but pass a time along with him. Debate with him, testing his hearts and his words and his bearings. That which goeth into the storehouse must come forth, and the things that are thine must be shared with a friend. Knowledge is regarded by the fool as ignorant, and the things that are profitable are to him hurtful. He liveth in death, it is therefore his food. The wise man lets his heart overflow, but keeps silent his mouth. O men, listen to the voice of wisdom, listen to the voice of light. Mysteries there are in the cosmos that unveiled fill the world with their light. Let he who would be free from the bounds of darkness first divine the material from the immaterial, the fire from the earth. For know ye that as earth descends to earth, so also fire ascends unto fire, and becomes one with fire. He who knows the fire that is within himself shall ascend unto the eternal fire, and dwell in it eternally. Fire, the inner fire, is the most potent of all force, for it overcometh all things, and penetrates to all things of the earth. Man supports himself only on that which resists, so earth must resist man, else he exists not. All eyes do not see with the same vision, for to one an object appears of one from the color. Again, for to one an object appears of one form and color, and to the different eye of another. So also the infinite fire, changing from color to color, is never the same from day to day. Thus speak I Thoth of my wisdom, for man is a fire burning bright through the night, never is quenched in the veil of the darkness, never is quenched by the veil of the night. Into men's hearts I looked by my wisdom, found them not free from the bondage of strife, free from the toils thy fire, O my brother, lest it be buried in the shadow of night. Hark ye, O man, and list to this wisdom, where do name and form cease? Only in consciousness invisible are infinite force of radiance bright. The forms that ye create by brightening thy vision are truly effects that follow thy cause. Man is a star bound to a body, until in the end he is freed through his strife. Only by struggling and toiling thy utmost show the star within the bloom out into a new life. He who knows the consummate of all things frees his star from the realms of night. Remember, O man, that all which exists is only another form of that which exists not. Everything that has being is passing into yet other being, and thou thyself art not an exception. Consider the law, for all is law. Seek not that which is not the law, for such exists only in the illusion of the senses. Wisdom cometh to all her children, even as they cometh unto wisdom. All thou through the ages the light has been hidden. Awake, O man, and be wise. Deep in the mysteries of life have I traveled, seeking and searching for that which is hidden. List ye, O man, and be wise. Far neath the earth's crust in the halls of Amenti, mysteries I saw that are hidden from men. Oft have I journeyed the deep hidden passage, looked on the light that is life among men. There neath the flowers of fire ever live life, searching I the hearts of the secrets of men. Found I that man is but living in darkness, light of the great fire hidden within. Before the lords of hidden Amenti learnt I the wisdom I give unto men. Masters are they of the great secret wisdom, brought from the future of infinity's end. Seven are they, the lords of Amenti, overlords they of the children of morning, sons of the cycles, masters of wisdom. Formed are they that as the children of men. 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9 are the titles of the masters of men. Far from the future, formless yet forming, came they as teachers for the children of men. Live they forever, yet not of the living, bound not to life, and yet free from death. Rule they forever with infinite wisdom, bound yet not bound to the dark halls of death. Life they have in them, yet life that is not life. Free from all are the lords of the all. Forth from them came forth the Logos, instruments they of the power o'er all. Vast is their continents, yet hidden in smallness, formed by forming, known yet unknown. Three holds the key of all hidden magic. Creator he of the halls of the dead, sending forth power, shrouding with darkness, binding the souls of the children of men, sending the darkness, bounding the soul. Force director of negative to the children of men. For is he who looses the power, Lord he of life to the children of men. Light is his body, flame is his countenance, freer of souls to the children of men. 5 is the master, the Lord of all magic, key to the word that resounds among men. 6 is the Lord of light, the hidden pathway, path of the souls of the children of men. 7 is he who is Lord of the vastness, master of space and the key of the times. 8 is he who orders the progress, weighs and balances the journey of men. 9 is the Father, vast he is continents, forming and changing from out of the formless. Meditate on the symbols I give thee, keys are they, though hidden from men. Reach ever upward, O soul of the morning, turn ye thoughts upward to light and to life. Find in the keys of the numbers I bring thee, light on the pathway from light unto life. Seek ye wisdom, turn ye thoughts inward, close not thy mind to the flower of light. Place in thy body a thought-formed picture, think of the numbers that lead thee to life. Clear is the pathway to he who has wisdom, open the door to the kingdom of light. Pour forth thy flame as a son of the morning, shut out the darkness and live in the day. Take thee, O man, as part of thy being, the 7 who are, but not as they seem. Open, O man, have I my wisdom. Follow the path and the way I have led. Masters of wisdom, son of the morning, light and life to the children of men. Translation: the key of wisdom, containing some of the precepts given by Thoth to the barbarians, the children of Kim, was given so that the keys of light should not be lost to man. Wisdom and power walk hand in hand. Without both, either is useless and non-existent. For power is not created without wisdom, and wisdom is only attained through development and use of power. The proud person is not wise, but foolish, for pride causes the proud one to reject learning, for he measures all things by his own rule and standards. Silence is golden. Talking about evil turns the creative force upon it and gives it life and actuality. To attempt to rise beyond the law brings its own punishment, for nothing is beyond law, and the one who attempts to operate against law breaks himself against law. Fear should not be allowed to enter self, neither should we create fear in another, for fear is bondage. If within our hearts we have kindness, then those of like harmony are attracted to us. If this is not the case, then that one is ruled by disorder. The commands of the master within are the ones to be followed. Do not attempt to objectively do more. Riches are means to an end, not the end. When the material needs are supplied, the mind, the hearts of the ancients should lead into higher realms. It is necessary to have a guide while on a path. Otherwise, one is led astray, attempting to find an easier way. Love is the beginning and end of the path, for in love lies oneness. Thoth gave this especially to the tribes, to inculcate the teaching of brotherhood and oneness. The person who comes in trouble finds relief in expressing himself. If he is hesitant, it is because the one to whom he has come has some flaw in his own nature, which repulses. This statement is of great value. Extravagant speech always shows lack of balance, and it is harmful to either speak in such manner or listen. For most people are easily thrown off balance. Perfection is the only goal. You should not be satisfied with anything short of it. It is only lack of knowledge which prevents one from penetrating the veil behind which lies wisdom. Silence is the great key to advancement. Retain power within thyself in silence. Make not yourself great, for all have potentially the same power. True greatness does not require self-praise. Let others acknowledge your greatness, which is recognized by your attitude toward your fellow man. Each person finds a reflection of his own nature in the one before him. Therefore, listen not to the things others may say about a person. Only by examining his mind and his attitude toward this fellow can you find his true nature. If your store knowledge, do not withhold from one in need who honestly asks. All are friends who seek the same goal. Do not let the words of an ignorant fool affect thee. Only the ignorant are affected by the ignorant. The vibration from the mind of a person are perceptible. Words are not necessary. Thoth again gives a discourse on the mysteries, giving keys and symbols for interpretation by those who are ready. The immaterial part of man's nature, the soul, must be separated from man's material nature, the flesh, before it can go into the light of the cosmic sun. The soul is the fire, while the flesh is akin to earth. Again, the soul is the fire, while the flesh is akin to earth. Each returns to its source. The inner fire penetrates to all planes in which the great fire manifests, including the material. Earth, being dense, supports within limited range. Even dense supports. Again, earth being dense supports within a limited range, even the fire of the soul. Otherwise, the soul being infinite would change finite earth to an infinite thing. It is the development of consciousness which allows the eye to see color and light. The infinite fire, developing and changing eternally, also develops the perceptions. Man is a changing fire, never the same. Thus he ever advances from day to day until he rises above the darkness, which does not change while it is still darkness. However, darkness becomes so infused with fire that it ceases to be darkness. Strife, hatred, and fear are the results of darkness. Freedom for darkness eliminates these. Name and form, otherwise individual separation, cease to exist in the full light of awakened consciousness. The creative ability comes with the openness of the third eye, and are the effects of the training required to fully open that eye. Man attains only through effort and experience, for such are the purifying agents which cleanse the dross of darkness from the soul. Materiality is but an unconscious form of manifestation of consciousness. Thus, in the final analysis, material and immaterial are one. Nothing that is material is fixed. It is constantly passing through change. This is its path from creation onward. Man adds a consciousness to this law of nature. Law in its final analysis is all that exists. All other things are fantasies and illusions formed in the minds of those without knowledge. Wisdom comes only to those who seek her. You must take the first step and then continue to walk forward. The halls of death beneath the halls of the flower of life contained the reflection of the souls of men. It was there that Thoth could read the story of man's advancement from darkness to light. A seeming paradox is contained in the words brought from the future of infinity's end. The torchbearer of insupportable brightness is the bringing and the end, the beginning and the end of all things. For as all things proceed forth from it, so in the end they must return to it, thus completing the circle in the torchbearer. The eventual is conceived. Thus the plan is known to the direct emanation, the Lords. The seven is the title of the Lords of the cycle beyond us, each called by the number of his cycle in its relationship to the Ayad. Coming from cycles beyond this, they are part of the absolute essence of each of these cosmic consciousness. They are bound to neither life nor death, for their activity is controlled directly by the Yakima. Thus, their life is not the life of emanations from a cosmic cycle, as they are not dependent on spirit for manifestation. The Logos, meaning word or reason, is an emanation from the Lord of each cycle. Always remember that there is a Lord of this cycle always not included in the seven, as it is literally an emanation of our reason for the ayad, as this comes along the Yakima. They are the central cell through which it flows. They are vast in continents, for they exist or extend into all cosmic spaces, yet are small because they are centered in form. 3. The Lord of the cycle, just beyond us, is the custodian of those things which directly affect mankind. He is responsible for the entrance of the negative, and it is through his power that the reflection of the souls of men were focused in the halls of the dead. The flow and direction of that force which we know as life force is controlled by the lords of four. Some of the greater forces, such as death, are drawn from four, a cycle where life ceases to be. That is, as we know life. The lords each have their function, affording entrance into this cosmic space and power which they have developed in their own progress through space. This is stepped down and transmitted through the lords, each giving of what he has of those below. The 5th is guardian of the word, opening the final gate when man is ready for it. 6, 7, and 8 have charge of certain of the fixed skeletal frameworks of future time, while 9 takes charge of this order after it becomes order. In a way, they are assisted to this cosmic consciousness, carrying out aspects necessary to the development of consciousness that this cosmic consciousness is not as yet capable of handling. And these numbers also lie a key to the word, but as yet this cannot be given. Attainment of it is indeed the attainment of life and light.